everyone. Welcome back to the Throwing Partners podcast. It's Kirby and Joseph here, bringing you our very first weekly recap from opening day and opening weekend. Joe, our first topic tonight that we're going to discuss is we're actually going to go over some of our first or favorite memories from opening day. Let me hear from you on your favorite memories from opening day.
So one of my favorite memories from opening day is going to have to be the opening series that the Astros played, the home opening series that the Astros played in 2018 against the Baltimore Orioles. And during that series, they had their trophy presentation, they had their pennant reveal, and their ring ceremony. And that was honestly, some of the best opening day memories I have, just because of all the ceremonies, the trophy presentation. They had just won the World Series the year before. And it really brought Houston together as a city after Hurricane Harvey. So it was just, the vibes around the ballpark were just incredible. And honestly, I would give anything to be able to go back into that moment. And there were some funny memories from the actual pennant reveal when they were unveiling the pennant. I don't know if you remember
Oh yeah, it would
the cover got stuck,
Trevor
and they had a guy with the leaf blower trying to get it off. And
yeah.
that memory has been stuck in my brain forever, and it's a big meme on MLB Twitter. It was awesome. Some of the most memorable plays from that series was, I think, in the second game of that series, Correa hit an inside the park home run, and then later that game, Josh Reddick hit a game-winning grand slam after he had been struggling to start off the year. So, the Astros swept that series, and that was honestly, I went to the first two games, and that was honestly one of my best opening um, day memories for sure.
Well, those were great memories for sure. I'm going to give you two of mine. So while I was in college, I didn't get to watch a lot of the Braves. They were on TBS when I was a little kid, and then after that era ended, I didn't watch them for a couple years like I should have. But in 2018, I finally got MLB TV, which was great because I was able to watch them every night. And opening night, 2018, the Braves were playing at home, and Nick Markakis actually hit a walk-off homer. And then, that kind of just led into them actually winning the division for the first time in a few years, onto the streak that they're on now. So that's one of them. The second one that I have is actually at Minute Maid, and I believe it was opening day. I think it was 2019, and I could have the year wrong, but I'm not sure. Anyway, it was a beautiful day, and the roof was open, and I remember that they had a flyover that day, and the flyover was incredible. It was so cool. I felt like it was like literally right over the stadium. And I remember like when they started the national anthem and the roof was open, I was thinking in my head, I'm like, are they gonna have a flyover today? And sure enough, they did, and it was, dude, it was loud, it was incredible, and it was an
Mm-hmm.
awesome start. So I love opening day. It's one of my favorite days of the year. So yeah, I just wanted to introduce or kind of talk tonight a little bit about that. But let's hear from you, Joe, on some instant reactions from the first 3 to 4 games that teams played this weekend. Let's hear some about some stuff in the American League.
All right, so for the first series, I'm going to break down. It's going to be the Blue Jays and the Rays, which could potentially have some big implications further down the line as we get the season going. These are two teams that a lot of people believe will have postseason aspirations when the end of the year comes. And so for the first game, Brios was solid in the first game. The offense exploded, um, for a big inning in the sixth, and they had three scoreless for the bullpen. And then in game two, Bassett had a rough outing for the Blue Jays to start 2024. And then the bullpen gave up three, and they couldn't mount a comeback. And, the offense was 0 for 3 with runners in scoring position. And then again for the Blue Jays, Kikuchi was only able to get through 4 and 1/3, giving up 3 in that third game. And then the bullpen gave up 2 more, so they unfortunately lost that game. And they were 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position. And then game 4, which was played today, Easter Sunday, Justin Turner had 3 hits for 4 RBIs, and Toronto went 4 for 11 with runners in scoring position. And Gosman had 6 Ks in 4 and 1/3 innings. and Toronto's bullpen was able to cover 4 2/3, only allowing 1 run. And so that was a little breakdown for the Blue Jays on how they did. But the Rays in the first game, the Rays tried getting 6 out of Eflin, but the wheels fell off the bus. He gave up a 5 spot in the 6, only going 5 2/3. And the Rays were 1-8 with runners in scoring position, and the bullpen gave up 2 more runs after he came out. And so for game 2, Savale shoved, giving up 1 run through 6 with 6 Ks, and the bullpen gave up 1. And Diaz, Lau, and Randy carried the offense, carried them to a win. And then in game 3 for the Rays, Lytle shut out through 6 with 6 Ks, and the bullpen gave up 1. The Rays offense, with a balanced approach, spread the run scoring out throughout the game, and they were able to win that game. And then in game 4, Armstrong got jumped in the first, and then Tyler Alexander came in and threw 5, but gave up 5. And the Rays only had 3 hits, going 1-0 or 0 for 1 with runners in scoring position. And then another series that might have big implications was the Orioles-Angels, and that might have big implications for the Orioles because they look to, reclaim the #1 seed in the American League. And so for game 1, Rutschman, Mountcastle, and Santander exploded in the early innings, and Mullins also produced near the bottom of the lineup, and Corbin Burns dominated. He only gave up 1 run, which was a solo home run to Mike Trout for Mike Trout's first at-bat of the year, but he was solid. He had 11 Ks, no walks, over 6 innings, and like I said, only gave up that 1 run to Mike Trout. And then for game 2, you had Henderson, Mountcastle, and Santander all have a 3 RBI day. They jumped out to a 2-run lead early on and put up 13. And then Rodriguez threw 6, gave up 1, struck out 9, and the bullpen gave up 3 in the late innings, but they were still able to secure the win. And then for the third game of the series, Tyler Wells pitched 6 innings, giving up 3 earned, with 7 Ks, with one unearned run scored. And the bullpen threw 3 scoreless, but the O's offense was only able to muster up 3 hits. And so for the Angels side of things, Mike Trout, as I mentioned, had that solo home run and his first at-bat of the season. But that was really the only offense that the Angels had that day. Patrick Sandoval got shelled, giving up 3 earned runs. 2 unearned, and the bullpen was awful, giving up 6. And then game 2, Griffin Canning pitched 5 innings, gave up 5 runs. The bullpen was awful again. They gave up 8 runs, and the Angels were 4 for 9 with runners in scoring position. And then in game 3 for the Angels, Reed Detmers threw 5 innings, 7 Ks, 1 run, shut the O's down. Angels scored all 4 runs in the first 2 innings. And then another series I got is the Red Sox Mariners. Game 1, Brian Bello, he threw 5 innings of 2-run ball. The bullpen came in for the Red Sox, gave up 2 across 4, and was able to hold off a Seattle comeback late in the innings. And Devers had 2 hits and 2 RBIs. In game 2 for the Red Sox, they had 4 hits, no runs. They were 0 for 4 with runners in scoring position. Nick Pivetta pitched well. He had 10 Ks over 6, but the offense was shut down by the Mariners pitching. And then in game 3, the Red Sox only scored 1 in the 5th to tie the game in the middle innings, and then scored 2 in the 9th, but could not hold on to the lead in the bottom of the 10th. They ended up losing to a Julio Rodriguez walk-off at the bottom of the 10th. And then in game 4, Emmanuel Valdez had a big game. He had 3 RBIs, and then Whitlock, I think, let's see. I think he shoved over 5 innings, and the bullpen shut it down after that, only allowing 1 walk. And then the Mariners side of things, Castillo took the ball for game 1. He gave up 4 runs on 5 innings. And the bullpen gave up 2 runs over 4, and the Mariners were 0 for 3 with runners in scoring position. Game 2, George Kirby went 6 2/3 with 8 Ks. Crawford hit a solo home run, which carried Seattle to a win. The Mariners only had 4 hits, but they won that game 1-0. And then game 3, Gilbert dominated over 7 innings, striking out 8, giving up 1. The offense scored 1 in the first and scored 3 in the 10th, winning in comeback fashion. After Julio hit a walk-off single to win the game. And then game 4, Miller gave up 4 runs over 5 with 6 Ks, and the bullpen only gave up 1 run in 4 innings. But they only had 4 hits, I believe. So I believe they lost. And then another series that happened, over this opening week was the Astros and Yankees, and I will be breaking down that series a little bit later on.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that breakdown, Joe. I'm going to talk about a couple of series, maybe not as in depth as you did, but I'm going to talk first about the Dodgers and the Cardinals. Let me just say the Dodgers won this series. And first of all, they played 4 games and won 3 out of 4. Let me just say this. Mookie Betts is on another level right now. I know that he went 0 for today, but in 6 games this season, Mookie Betts has 11 hits, 4 homers, 7 walks, and only 2 strikeouts. This guy he's had an unreal start. Not to mention, too, just a few weeks before, or maybe not even a few weeks, but a few days before spring training was over, this guy was named the shortstop. He hasn't played shortstop in probably 15 years. So I found that really interesting. I mean, he's an unreal athlete. And he's obviously a great hitter. So to see him on another level after making a position change is just unreal. So the Dodgers won that series 3-1. The next series I want to look at is actually the Diamondbacks and the Rockies. The Rockies might lose 110 games this year. They are not going to be good. But in game 1 that they played, the Diamondbacks won 16-1. Now, this was a 2-1 game outside of the 3rd inning. In the 3rd inning, the Diamondbacks put up 14 runs. I don't really know how that's possible. I feel like my Sunday league team could get the Rockies out. I'm sorry, could get the Diamondbacks out with less than 14 runs scored. That is absolutely atrocious. I'm still sitting here looking at it like, how did this happen? There's no way that this logically happened. So shout out to the Rockies for giving up an obscene amount of runs on opening day. And then I've got a couple more series. So the the Brewers and the Mets series. The Brewers actually swept that series 3-0. There was a brawl in there that involved Rhys Hoskins and Jeff McNeil. So that was really fun to see. Rhys Hoskins slid in kind of hard towards Jeff McNeil. Jeff McNeil popped up and started yelling at him. And then we got the great meme from Rhys Hoskins with the crying, or the gif with him crying. So that was great. We'll be seeing that all year. And then the only other undefeated team, in the National League right now is actually the Pirates. The Pirates swept the Marlins at their place this weekend. I don't know if they're legit or not. They started off last season, I think 20-10. To see them start out this year, undefeated so far after their first series, I'd love to see them make some noise in the NL Central. Because like we talked about on the preview, I couldn't really tell you if any of those teams are going to be any good. But to see the Pirates do well is pretty cool. And then the last one I'm going to talk about is the Braves and the Phillies. The Braves ended up winning that series 2-1 after their original opening day was pushed back to Friday. So, Joe, let's hear about that Astros update and some of your thoughts from their first series this weekend.
So, I just want to say that, the Astros got swept at home in a 4-game series against the Yankees. They've officially lost 9 straight at Minute Maid Park, dating back to the second game of the 2023 ALDS. And I believe that I saw somewhere that they have lost 12 of 13 at Minute Maid Park, dating back to the regular season in 2023. They've been bad at home. And, I think that, honestly, coming out of that series, I don't feel as bad as some might. I think that the Astros did a great job of beating themselves over these last 4 games. I think that their inability to throw strikes and to put up competitive at bats against the Yankees hitters really killed them. I think that their pitching was getting in really uncompetitive counts and allowing Yankees hitters to be less aggressive. And they didn't really attack the Yankees hitters with a lot of strikes, which I think was their main problem. I think the Yankees had a great approach. I think that you know they took their walks and then took advantage of it. But I don't come out of that series being very impressed with the Yankees offense outside of Juan Soto and Oswaldo Cabrera. I heard that after Fomber's opening day start, there was talks about his pitch movement increasing a little bit more than it usually is. And I think that he said post game that he was having a hard time adjusting to that on the mound. And I think you could really see that. I was at the game. I I couldn't see it, but I think that, if he is saying that he felt like he had an increase in movement and he wasn't able to adjust, and that's probably what happened because I was at the game and I was watching and I was seeing, him get frustrated, and he was getting frustrated at pitches that, looked like they weren't missing by much, but they were missing. Um, and so I think that, that is part of the reason why they had a lot of trouble this weekend. Tanner Scott being able to throw strikes in his first appearance really hurt. Just the inability to throw strikes. And then, getting to the bullpen in game 3 and getting the guys that you want in that game, in that situation up, and then them not being able to produce really hurt. Brian Abreu came back from his 2-game suspension, and he got shelled. He did not pitch well, and it's going to be really interesting to see how the Astros kind of adjust to that. And then, a lot of talk has been about the Astros bullpen because, they lost around 200 innings from Neris, Stanek, and Maton over the offseason, and they only replaced it with one person, Josh Hader. And while Josh Hader is great, he's the best closer in baseball. I think that the front office did a very poor job of, actually going out there and, finding guys that can throw those valuable middle innings. And I'm gonna be like brutally honest. I think that move has Jim Crane written all over it. He always loves the splashy move for the right price, and I think that he over Dana was the one who wanted that Josh Hader move. I have no reason to believe that Dana Brown saw the roster and thought that he could solve the Astros, bullpen problem with, them having 3 free agents by just signing one player. And I think that, you know, Jim Crane's inability to take a step back over these last couple of years has really hurt the Astros. I think that, him telling James Click to basically go F himself was a big mistake after they won the World Series, after he created and built the best bullpen in the league that year. And someone who traded for Yainer Diaz, just giving up Miles Straw. I think that was a big mistake. I think that is where a lot of the Astros problems currently stem from, was that departure of James Click. But I think that a lot of the Astros problems are also mental. I think that their offense at home has been awful these last months of previous seasons, and up till now they played awful at home last year. They had a losing record, and it looks like that might continue. I know we're only 4 games in, but they've got to figure out something offensively at home. I mean, they cannot keep using the batter's eye as an excuse. I do think that there is an underlying reason as to why they struggle, but they cannot blame the batter's eye. I think that is a weak mentality excuse, because both teams play with that batter's eye. Both teams hit, in the same position in the batter's box with the same backdrop. I think that a lot of the problems with the Astros have offensively is the dimensions of Minute Maid. I think that, having that short left field and the wall protruding, allowing, left fielders to play more left center really affects, how the Astros approach, trying to hit balls in the gap. Because a lot of balls that are hit really well into the gap usually get caught at Minute Maid Park. And that's because the outfield can usually shift from left to left center and then right, playing right, but center field being able to shift over a little more to right field, which, creates this problem where it's really hard to hit balls in the gap. And, I think that has been I think that can contribute, but like the batter's eye, both teams play at the same field. They've just got to figure out how to, hit with that in mind. I really don't think that Espada did anything wrong over the last couple games. I think maybe the only move I'll criticize is putting in John Singleton for Jake Myers after he hit, a home run. I think that was pretty questionable. I know he was probably playing matchups, but other than that, I think that he will be fine. I've liked the lineup construction so far. On paper, the lineup construction should be producing. It's just, I think, all mental for the lineup.
Well, Joe, that was a really good recap from this weekend. I'm going to ask you a couple things about the Astros, and then we'll move on, and I'll give a Braves update. Yainer Diaz, the Duke can hit. Where do you see him hitting at in this lineup? Because we kind of talked about an ideal Astros lineup, and he was a little further down the lineup. Do you think he needs a hit up, maybe in the 5 spot?
Well, after watching this series and after seeing the way that Jose Abreu played, in my original breakdown, I had Yainer hitting below, I believe, Jose Abreu and Chas McCormick.
Yeah.
So I think that based off of the way that both Chaz and Abreu have played, I do see him moving up into that 6th spot. Or, sorry, that 5th spot behind Bugman. But I will say that my only concern there is I know last year he struggled a lot hitting with runners in scoring position. I don't know if it's a mental thing where he just, can't perform when, there are people on base. But, I'm willing to, just throw that lineup out where he's batting 5th and see. Just because I do think that they need someone other than Jose Abreu to bat there. And, I know that I said in the previous episode that I was looking for a big season from Jose Abreu, but watching him and watching that first game live and in person, it is kind of crazy to see how slow his hands have been to start the season. He came up in a big spot late in the game, I believe, with 2 outs and 2 on, and the Yankees had Jonathan Loizica on the mound, and when I saw Jose Abreu come up, I just let out a big sigh because I knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And some people around me kind of, turned around and looked at me a little confused, and I was like, Jose Abreu does not hit the fastball well. Jonathan Loizica throws 98 average.
Yeah.
I was like, this is not going to go well. It's going to be a really uncompetitive at bat. And that is exactly what it was. He got blown away. He was late on almost every single pitch. And, it's just interesting. There is a very easy way to attack him, and it's just throw your fastball because he's not going to hit it. He can't catch up to it. So, I was listening to Dana Brown on the radio show this morning to, preview the Astros game. And he was saying that, if Ropofito keeps hitting in the minors, that you might see him on this roster sometime in the near future. And I really do wonder how long it is before they call him up and tell Abreu to, have a ride the pine because I know it's one series. He played really well after coming off the IL last year, but my lord, he was awful this series. He was a black hole. He needs to be hitting a lot lower than fifth. I think that it would be kind of criminal to bat him anywhere above 8 because I know that Jeremy Pena's power still hasn't been back, but he's done a good job of getting those hits, hitting
Yeah.
singles at least. So I think that he needs to be up in the lineup as well. Probably not above Chaz, but right in that 7 spot, I think he would be good in, and then dropping Abreu down because his hand speed is just not there anymore.
Well, I think it's interesting that you talked about Abreu because that was one thing I was going to ask you. So far, I think he might be the only position player that is actually going to get real playing time that doesn't have a hit yet. I mean, we saw Jake Myers hit a home run in Game 1. Every other starter has had a hit except Jose Abreu, and like you said, Joe, he looks horrible at the plate. I don't think he can hit anything over like 92 miles an hour right now, and that's pushing it.
Yeah.
Another thing too is, to be honest with you, Joe, Yordan Alvarez was not good this series. He was horrible.
Mm-hmm. He was.
And also too, not to live and die by the long ball, but I think the Astros only hit 2 or 3 home runs the whole series.
2 home runs. The
Yeah, home
Altuve
runs.
home run that happened today, and then the Jake Myers home run on opening day. And I saw someone on Twitter say that the Astros over this run have not had a true power hitter that can come up and just give you the potential to hit a home run at any moment. I think that for the most part, the Astros have a very balanced lineup. They have guys that can do a lot of things, but they've never had that one player. I think that Yainer Diaz honestly could be that guy just because he has crazy pop, but he needs to be hitting further up in the lineup to be a real threat with runners, so that runners are on base when he gets up. But yeah, Jordan and Tucker both were very quiet. I wanted to talk about Alex Bregman. That first game, I believe he had 5 batted balls hit over 100 miles per hour and absolutely nothing to show for it.
Yep.
I think that he is still going to have a crazy season. I know that he has been hitting into a lot of pop-ups, which means that he just needs to make a tiny adjustment to his swing. But there have been a couple balls hit off his bat that I thought genuinely had a chance to get out. He just hit them in the wrong part of the park. He didn't pull them enough. But he's been hitting the ball in the air, which is honestly what I like to see from him. Because if he can just pull that ball, if he's thinking pull, he could have the potential to hit 40 home runs again, like he did in 2019. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he progresses with his swing over the course of the season. I know that he is a freak. He's always tinkering with his swing. So I know that he'll get it figured out eventually. But it was kind of funny. The second game, he had a ball hit like 88 miles per hour blooper over the shortstop's head for an RBI single, and I just thought that was funny.
I agree. Well, and also too, historically, Bregman's a slow starter. He's a second half player. We all know that, which is okay when the rest of the offense is going. But when the rest of the offense isn't doing anything, that's a problem. So I'm interested to see how this next series plays out when they play the Blue Jays, because the Blue Jays aren't just going to roll over and die for them. They're going to have to earn it. So anyway, moving on. Okay, the Braves series this weekend. They played the Phillies at Citizens Bank Park, which is a madhouse to play in. The Braves won the series 2-1. They won the first 2 games and dropped the game today. Game 1, they won 9-3. Spencer Strider pitched really well overall. Not his best outing, but he went 5 2/3. And I think it was either 8 or 9 strikeouts. The worst part about the whole game was that Sean Murphy swung and hit a foul ball, and he strained his oblique. He's probably going to be out about a month. Luckily, it is, I guess, the lowest grade on an oblique strain. So, which is good news. He didn't tear it So he's probably going to be out a month. The Braves are actually in a best case scenario when it comes to their catching situation because they've got Travis d'Arnaud sitting on the bench. He's not the greatest defensive catcher, but he calls a great game, and he can swing it too. So game one, like I said, they won 9-3. The platoon with Adam Duvall and Jared Kelenic, they did exceptionally well that day. Duvall came in after Kelenic had already had a couple of hits, and Duvall came up and hit a pinch hit double, which was exactly what they signed him for. So that's game one. Matt Olson's 30th birthday was opening day, and he hit 3 doubles. Great 30th birthday and a great start to the season for him. Now, game two was a 12-4 Braves victory. And let me just say, Kevin Seitzer, the Braves hitting coach, needs to win like a Nobel Peace Prize or something, because I swear this guy could fix anybody's swing. Maybe this is who Jose Abreu needs to go see, because once again, Kelnick had a great game. So it's something about him. I don't know exactly what he teaches. I know that he talks a lot about keeping their hands lower towards the zone. That way there's not a lot of movement. It's worked for Michael Harris. It's now working for Jared Kelenic. It's worked for Ronald Acuna, Matt Olson, Marcell Ozuna. So it's interesting to see the things that he is implementing into these guys, and it works. Jesse Chavez, the 40-year-old, who is probably 5'10" and about $160, at 40 years old, came in and had a great outing after Max Fried only threw 2/3 of an inning. The umpire blew a third strike call to Nick Castellanos, which cost Fried the strikeout, which would have ended the inning. So with that being said, Nick Castellanos got walked after that. And then I think it was Stott that came up and hit a 2 RBI single, which they yanked Max Fried after that. Jesse Chavez came in, took care of business. Even though Fried only threw 2/3 of an inning, the Braves still won 12-4. So that all worked out. They hit 3 homers that game, which was great, especially up in the Northeast, because it's still pretty cold right now. Their worst hitters in quotation marks, that are on the team, their 8 and 9 hole guys, are going to typically be Orlando Arcia and Jared Kelenic, and they had 6 hits, which is great to see. Game 3, which was today, Chris Sale's debut. Chris Sale went 5 2/3. Had plenty of strikeouts to go along with it. And let me just tell you, in the first inning, Chris Sale faced off against Trey Turner and blew one by him at 95 that looked like 105. He's 6'6", so anything that he throws hard is going to come at you quick. That velo topped out at around 97 today. He did exactly what the Braves need him to do as that number 3 starter. Aaron Bummer came in later in the game. He almost got out of a jam. He got a double play ball. Ozzy, my guy, probably my favorite Braves player right now. His arm is just not great anymore. He's had some shoulder issues. He's actually had a surgery on it. And his arm wasn't good enough to get the double play. Therefore, that inning continued. It's okay. They still won the series. Once again, the platoon with Adam Duvall and Jared Kelenic. Adam Duvall had a hit. Guess what? Right-handed pitcher comes back in. Jared Kelenic enters the game. Jared Kelenic comes up, hits one like 109 off the bat for a double off the wall. That was great to see. The worst part about today's game was the fact that the Braves had 14 Ks at the plate. 3 from Ronald Acuna, 3 from Matt Olson. Then now, granted, they still put up 4 runs today somehow. But overall, not their best work, but, seeing Chris Sale have a good start today was huge, because they're going to need that guy, especially come October. So that's kind of my Braves update, Joe. Do you want to tell us your American League winners of the week?
Yeah, of course. So for pitching, on the pitching side, I'm gonna have to go with Corbin Burns, who I mentioned last week. on our preseason preview. I believe that he was a great move for the Orioles to make. I think that, not a lot of people were talking about it going into the season, which I find really strange considering the Orioles were one of the best teams in baseball last year. But he dominated the Angels. I know it's just the Angels. But he had 11 Ks over 6 innings with no walks. I got to say that's pretty impressive. The no walks part especially, just because, you know, while the Angels, aren't great, they still are a professional baseball team, and they have guys that could take big league at bats and have a good approach and draw a walk over 6 innings, and none of them did that. He only gave up 1 run, which was funny because it was a Mike Trout solo home run, and so that's going to be my pitcher of the week. Now for the hitter of the week, I don't know if you mentioned that, but it's gonna have to be Juan Soto. He just torments the Astros. I was having like 2019 flashbacks all over again. He had a 299 WRC plus, and he had a 500 average in the game, or in the series, the 4-game series at Minute Maid. And someone was joking on Twitter saying that the Astros should sign him to a like $900 million contract. And I agree. He's a free agent this year, and he hits well at Minute Maid Park. He loves it. So, if you really want to get somebody that can hit well at Minute Maid or share their ideas and approach at Minute Maid to the team, I would go get Juan Soto because, he had some great defensive plays there too, but his bat was just insane. It was like I said, tormenting to watch because I saw it in 2019, and I saw several people on Twitter just saying, "I am tired of Juan Soto." I think that Juan Soto would make a great Astro.
Let's talk about Juan Soto for just a second. This guy is 25 years old. Am I right? He is
Correct.
He is an absolute freak. This guy.
Yes.
Okay, so on our preview pod, we mentioned that we both agreed that Yordan Alvarez was the most complete hitter in baseball. I don't know if Soto had made an off-season adjustment, but he's a hitting freak, kind of like Bregman. He's always tinkering with things. The most complete hitter in baseball right now looks like Juan Soto, and it looks like it's not relatively close. The ball that he hit today off Hader should have blown by him. It shouldn't have been a competitive pitch. It should have been strike 3. But Juan Soto put it in play, and it scored a run today. The guy is unreal. I would love for the Astros or the Braves to sign the guy. Now, at the rate that he's going, this guy's going to make $500 million. He's going to blow past that Mike Trout concert. He's going to blow past that Mike Trout contract. So it'll be interesting to see this guy might hit 330 with a 460 on base and have an OPS somewhere around 1100. It's going to be scary what his numbers look like, especially playing at Yankee Stadium. But and I had to throw that in there because this guy he's unreal.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I would offer him a big contract if I were the Astros, and if Kyle Tucker isn't going to talk extensions with you, let him play out his contract. Have Juan Soto there. He hits well in Minute Maid, so
yeah, they could really use that right now.
Yeah,
not to mention he's the ideal number 2 hitter on almost every single team in the league. Can you imagine Ronald Acuna then Juan Soto? That's the perfect 1-2 punch. No. Or Altuve Soto. Come on. That I'm like drooling thinking about the possibilities of him in one of our lineups.
Yeah.
Okay, so you gave us your American League winners of the week. I'm going to give the National League. I mentioned him earlier. I'm going to mention him again. My hitter of the week is going to be Mookie Betts. Like I said, Mookie's had 11 hits in 6 games so far. He's had 4 homers, 7 walks, and I believe still only 2 strikeouts, which is that's unreal. This guy, there's not enough good things to say about him. I wish he was on one of our teams because I love watching the guy play. Now, as far as pitchers of the week go, or a pitcher of the week goes, I'm actually going to go with a teammate of his. I'm going to go with Bobby Miller. Bobby Miller went 6 innings of 2-hit ball with 1 walk and 11 Ks. Unreal outing, almost as good as the Burns outing minus the walk. Not to mention his velo through all of those innings was like sitting anywhere between 98 and 100. So he was out there absolutely shoving. So I'm going Bobby Miller for my pitcher of the week. This guy was, man, he was lights out. I would have hated to have been a Cardinal hitter. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's what I've got. Now, looking at the week ahead, Joe, are there any matchups that you are looking forward to in the week ahead?
Well, I'm gonna keep it local. I'm gonna say the two matchups that the Astros have, two potential postseason matchups. They have the Blue Jays rolling into town Monday through Wednesday, and they head up north, up I-45 to Dallas, take on the Rangers for the weekend series. The Rangers showed why they were the World Series champions this weekend. I know that they're playing the Cubs, and depending on how the season shakes out, they could either be really good or really bad. They're one of those middle of the road teams that needs to pick which one they want to be. But the Rangers came out and I believe they won 2 of 3 from the Cubs, and the Blue Jays split the series, I believe, with the Rays. So just looking to bounce back for the Astros. They've got Ronel Blanco going on Monday. Hopefully he can actually perform under the lights this time. He did great over spring training like he did last year. And as I mentioned in the preview podcast, hopefully he can actually perform in the big leagues this time around. And it'll be interesting to see how the Astros rotation does second time around. As I mentioned, Fromber, had those control issues because of the excess movement. Let's see if he can make the adjustment, keep that movement, but, get it more in the zone. And then Javier shined. He gave you everything that you could have asked for out of him. He had 6 strong innings. The bullpen just wasn't able to hold on. But if he can keep it up, maybe my dark horse prediction for Javier as a Cy Young doesn't look so bad near the end of the year. And then Hunter Brown did, just what you wanted. The starting pitching, which was probably one of the biggest questions, the Astros had over the offseason was, with all of these injuries, how well could they do? And they showed you in those first 4 games that they can handle it while, they're waiting for reinforcements. And, piggybacking off of that, I think that, some of their bullpen problems will be solved once they get those reinforcements because it'll slot guys down to the next spot. It'll push some guys out of the rotation, but into the bullpen, which, could potentially help you with, those middle innings that you're having problems, that the Astros have had problems with right now. So, just taking a look back on this weekend, I mentioned Hunter Brown, but JP France also pitched very well. So, it'll be interesting to see how the Astros rotation does against 2 very potent lineups coming up here in the next week.
Awesome. Well, I've got a couple series that I'm really interested to watch this week. The first one that I have is the Reds and the Phillies. And here's why. First of all, the first game that you're going to have of this series being tomorrow, you're going to see the number 4 starters. You're going to see the number 5 starters. I think that these could be very high-powered offenses going at it. So I think the bank is going to be rocking. I'm not saying that the Phillies are going to win. I don't really know. They might sweep the Reds. But this series is going to be really high scoring, I think. Another series that I'm really interested in is going to be the Astros and the Rangers. That's going to be a great series up in Arlington. But then also, too, you've got Yankees, Diamondbacks. Okay. Yankees and Diamondbacks is really interesting to me. You've got an outfield with Juan Soto, who doesn't have a great arm. You've got Aaron Judge playing center sometimes, who is a walking injury and going to play center field out in Arizona, which has a massive outfield. And then you've got Grisham and you've also got Verdugo. Okay, any ball that's hit between right and center, the D-backs are going to run for days on both of those guys. So I'm interested to see how the D-backs do. I mean, if they're hitting balls in the gap, they're going to run. They've got some guys that are absolute burners. So I'm really interested to watch that. We've got our first Giants-Dodgers series. We've also got our first Padres-Giants series. So those are going to be good series as well because all of those teams, it's going to be a dogfight out in the NL West, with the Dodgers probably coming out on top, which we all agree on. And then just like I talked about with the Diamondbacks playing the Yankees, the Diamondbacks actually next weekend go and see the Braves for their home opener. And it's going to be really interesting because, like I just talked about, they've got a lot of guys that run well. The Braves lost Sean Murphy. Sean Murphy has a great pop time. We know that he can chuck a ball down to second and get some guys out. Travis d'Arnaud's not that guy. Travis d'Arnaud doesn't have a great arm. There's a chance the Diamondbacks steal several bases during all of those games. So I'm interested to see how that goes. I hope the Braves can keep them off the base pass. Let's go with that. And then depending on how the first half of the week goes, is if I'm going to be interested in this series or not, because you've got Orioles and Pirates. Now, the Orioles won their series against the Angels, and the Pirates obviously swept the Marlins. Okay, the Marlins are not good. We've established that. But if the Pirates do well in their their early week series, then I actually might tune in and see how the Orioles and the Pirates play out. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to in this coming week. Joe, do you have any final thoughts for the night?
Well, I would just like to say that you mentioned the Reds. I mentioned the Reds in our first episode as being a dark horse team. I know that they played the Nationals, and it's weird. Some people have the Nationals actually not being as bad as I expect them to be this year.
I don't think we're
But the
going to be
Reds
bad
came
at all.
out. Yeah. Well, so, the Reds came out and they won 2 of 3 from the Nationals. And, I think that, as I mentioned, the Reds got bit by their pitching problems. I believe that they blew a late lead in their loss. And I think that their bullpen was one of the problems there. And, but, they came out and, they won that first game and then they took the last game of the series. And I think that, as you said, that's going to be a really interesting, it's going to be a really interesting season for them. I really do believe that they have guys that can go out there and just hit you to death. Now, the pitching, on the other hand, is a different story. But, I think, like you said, that's going to be a great matchup in Philly for sure. And, I think the Pirates coming on strong, they've got some guys. I was listening to some of their highlights. O'Neal Cruz has been pretty good after coming back from his injury from last season. And, Brian Hayes has continued to hit well after, hitting very well in the second half of last season. Brian Reynolds is Brian Reynolds. He got paid for a reason. He's going to be good as well. And then Connor Joe as well has been hitting well to start off the season for them. And, they took care of an opponent that was in the postseason last year. I know that the Marlins have their issues with their pitching depth because of injuries. But, they did make the postseason last year, so they are not a team to, take lightly. So the fact that the, Pirates were able to come in and, sweep them in a 4-game series pretty handily was pretty impressive to see.
Definitely. Well, my final thoughts from this first opening week. First of all, baseball's back. I got something to watch every single night of the week now. I'm really excited about the season, especially for both of our teams. But let me just say, my final thought. I absolutely loved seeing Mike Trout hit the very first homer of this season. Mike Trout is the best player that has come out of this generation, and it's not particularly close. This guy is a bona fide Hall of Famer. He will be a first bout, probably 100% consensus Hall of Famer. We just need a healthy season out of this guy. It was awesome to see him lead off the year with a homer. I want to see him have a healthy season. I want to see him playing 140 games or more. For the sheer fact that, the Angels obviously need it, but baseball needs it too, because that guy is so talented. I mean, he's a true five-tool player, and he's just an awesome human being. So that's my final thought. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in tonight. Remember, this is the Throwing Partners podcast with Kirby and Joseph. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and then to follow us on our socials at KirbyD4 and at JAguilar7891. Thanks, everyone, and have a great week.